In a peaceful village nestled among green hills and farmlands, there lived a beloved king named Dikiobi. His people adored him, but it was his eldest daughter, Princess Iphioma, who held their hearts. Graceful, kind, and soft-spoken, Iphioma was a princess of the people, but behind her gentle smile was a secret burden, one she carried since childhood. Iphioma had a strong, unpleasant body odor. No soap, perfume, or healer's remedy could cure it. The older she grew, the more unbearable it became, though beautiful. People shied away from her in public, and cruel whispers haunted her steps. Friends stopped visiting. Mothers pulled their children close when she passed. Suitors fled after their first encounter. The royal palace became her quiet cage. Iphioma would spend long days staring out the window, dreaming of a man who could look past her scent and love her heart. One summer evening, vibrant music echoed through the village. Drums beat joyfully as people danced around a roaring bonfire in celebration of the harvest. From her tower, Iphioma watched longingly. Joy shimmered below. A wild thought took root. Maybe, just for a moment, she could join the crowd. Surely the dancing and noise would mask her presence. She slipped through the palace gates and crept into the shadows of the square. For a moment, no one noticed her. But then, a breeze blew, carrying her scent into the crowd. Laughter turned to gagging. People recoiled in horror. Children cried. And Iphioma ran. Humiliated, she hid behind a tree, tears streaming down her face. Behind the tree, Iphioma wept quietly. Suddenly, the soft beat of a drum approached. A young man with warm eyes and a wide smile emerged from a brush, drum in hand. He introduced himself as Obesai, a drummer from a neighboring village. "Why did you stop dancing?" he asked. "You looked free and happy." Iphioma was stunned. You can smell me, yet you followed me?" Obesai smiled gently. "Your spirit outshines any scent. I saw joy in you, and I want to see it again." For the first time in years, someone saw her without judgment. As Obesai tapped his drum, Iphioma began to sway, shyly at first. But then she danced. Each day, Iphioma returned to the bushes. Obesai was always there, drumming, laughing, waiting. He listened to her stories. She danced without shame. Weeks passed. Their bond deepened. Affection bloomed, and so did something even rarer. Hope. One golden afternoon, Obesai took Iphioma's hands and said softly, "I love you. Marry me. Let our villages unite in joy." Tears filled Iphioma's eyes. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes." But deep down, she feared. Could a royal ever marry a poor drummer? Before they could tell the world, disaster struck. A plague swept across the region, devouring entire villages. Doors shut, borders sealed. Iphioma and Obesai were cut off, isolated. No letters, no visits, only silence and fear. Then the princess fell ill. Fever, boils, madness. She hovered between life and death. King Dikiobi and Queen Amaka tried everything. Finally, an old village woman's foul tonic, made of bitter roots and animal blood, was given to her. By miracle or madness, it worked. Iphioma stirred, and when she recovered, her scent was gone. Princess Iphioma stood shakily, one hand trailing along the cold wall of her chamber. Her body still trembled from weeks of illness, yet something inside her had shifted. She took small steps toward the tall mirror tucked in the corner of her room. She hadn't looked at herself in weeks. She was terrified, and then she saw it. The face staring back was her own, but it glowed with a freshness she had never known. Her eyes looked brighter. Her skin was smooth, soft, radiant. Her arms bore no blisters, no scars. Hesitantly, she raised one arm and sniffed. Nothing. No stench. No sourness. The odor that had cursed her for years was gone. A loud gasp escaped her lips. "I'm free," she whispered. She twirled once, then again, laughing, giddy and breathless. She rushed to Queen Amaka, tears in her eyes. "Mother," she cried, "I'm healed." The queen embraced her tightly, overcome. King Dikiobi wept in gratitude, holding both his daughter's hands. As the months passed and the plague finally lifted, Princess Iphioma stepped out into the sunlit streets of the village for the first time in over a year. This time, the villagers didn't look away. They paused in admiration. Whispers of awe followed her. "Look at the princess. She's glowing. What beauty!" Men stared openly now. No gagging, no whispers of shame. Just admiration, desire. And somewhere in that crowd stood Obesai. He moved toward her, face open, heart full, smiling wide. Her first instinct was to run into his arms, just like old times. But then she hesitated. The villagers were watching. How could a now revered princess be seen with a poor drummer? Doubt clouded her joy. She stood still as Obesai approached, arms wide, eyes shining. "My princess," he said, "I've waited so long. You're here. You're safe." But Iphioma didn't embrace him. She didn't even smile. "You will address me as Princess Iphioma," she said coldly. Obesai froze, hurt written across his face. "But we were to be married," he stammered. "I've moved on," she said firmly. "I belong in a world beyond your reach now." Obesai's voice broke. "I loved you, even when no one else would." Iphioma's gaze faltered. For a heartbeat, pain flashed in her eyes, but pride smothered it. "Goodbye, Obesai," she said, and walked away. Weeks passed. The villagers now looked upon Princess Iphioma as a divine beauty, the same girl they once avoided like rotting fish. She could barely walk 10 steps without being praised, gifted, or flirted with. Her name, once whispered in shame, now echoed in admiration. But admiration became her new addiction. Each morning, she stood before a tall mirror, tilting her chin, examining her cheekbones. "More coal," she would command her maids. "Braid my hair longer, add gold threads." Her joy once came from Obesai's music and their laughter in the bushes. Now, she found joy only in reflections and the way men looked at her. She barely thought of Obesai anymore. Or, if she did, it was only to tell herself, "He was kind, but love is not enough. I deserve more now." King Dikiobi, proud of his daughter's recovery, began encouraging suitors again. Nobles from distant lands arrived with gifts, silks, camels, diamonds, even a carved throne. Princes offered kingdoms in exchange for her hand. The palace glistened with riches, but the warmth in Iphioma's eyes faded. One evening at supper, she raised her goblet high and declared, "Let the strongest among them fight for me. I will host a royal tournament. Wrestling. The winner shall be my husband." The crowd cheered. Her father raised a brow but said nothing. Iphioma wanted the whole kingdom to see her. The new Iphioma, desired, worshipped, elevated. Soon, the kingdom buzzed with excitement. The day of the tournament came. The sky was cloudless. Villagers gathered early. Drums pounded. Flags waved. And in the center of the arena, beneath embroidered canopies, Princess Iphioma emerged like a goddess, draped in layers of gold, her neck stacked with coral beads, her skin powdered with fine oils. She lifted a royal hand. The crowd roared. But something wasn't right. In her pursuit of perfect beauty, Iphioma had neglected something essential. She had stopped bathing regularly, fearful of smearing her perfumes or sweating off the glow. Her servants whispered warnings, but she silenced them. Now, in the heat of the midday sun, it returned. The odor. It began faint, but as she waved the crowd, lifting her arms, it thickened, creeping to the warm air like a cruel memory. Whispers spread like wildfire. "Is that? No, it can't be. Princess Iphioma?" The first wrestler stepped forward and then recoiled. He turned and walked away. The next did the same. Then the next. By the 5th rejection, the crowd had gone silent. Then laughter, uneasy, scattered. Then louder. A child cried out, "She stinks again." Villagers began backing away. Some covered their faces. Others openly sneered. Iphioma froze. Her heart pounded. Her hands trembled. In desperation, she ripped off her jewelry, tore off her silk robe, and ran. Barefoot, humiliated, she sprinted out of the arena, her past clawing its way back into the present. She ran past noblemen who once praised her skin, past villagers who now looked at her the same way they once had. She ran until the sounds faded, and only one man stood in the distance. Obesai. He stood tall, alone at the edge of the tournament grounds. He hadn't competed. He hadn't even tried to win her back. But he had come. His eyes met hers, calm and filled with something stronger than pity. Love, still. She collapsed to her knees. Obesai walked toward her, not hurried, not angry, just steady, with a sadness in his eyes that pierced deeper than any insult ever had. When he reached her, Iphioma looked up, trembling. I don't know why you're here, she whispered. You shouldn't be. Obesai knelt. I came to watch the one I once loved, not for the show, but to remember her spirit. Iphioma sobbed. I lost it. I lost myself. I thought looking perfect meant I deserved more, but I traded your love for a crowd. Obesai nodded, his voice soft but steady. Crowds leave. Perfume fades. But truth remains. And for the first time in many moons, Princess Iphioma wept without pride. Her tears weren't for shame, but for the one thing she now feared she had lost forever. The village square, once buzzing with gossip and shock, now lay quiet. The echoes of laughter and whispers still rang in Princess Iphioma's ears as she sat alone beneath a twisted fig tree far from the arena. Her royal robe was torn, her beads scattered in the dust, her perfume bottles broken and forgotten, and her heart shattered. Birds chirped overhead, unaware that a princess wept beneath them, not from humiliation, but from a deeper loss, the loss of herself. She stared at her palms. What have I become? She whispered aloud. I was once full of kindness, joy, laughter. Now I am empty glitter. Suddenly, a shadow fell across her face. She looked up, expecting a guard, or perhaps a courtier sent by her father. But it was Obesai, still in his same simple tunic, drums slung over his shoulder, dust on his sandals. Unchanged, except for the sadness in his eyes. He sat beside her without speaking. Minutes passed. Only the wind moved, rustling the dry leaves. Then Iphioma finally spoke, her voice hoarse and fragile. I chose pride. I let praise make me cruel. Obesai turned to her slowly. Pride isn't evil, Iphioma. But when it blinds you from those who love you, it becomes a cage. I hurt you, she choked. The way I spoke to you, after all you gave me. Obesai nodded slowly. You did. More silence. Then he added softly, but I remember the girl who danced barefoot in the forest, who laughed until her eyes watered, who didn't care about gold or jewels, only rhythm and wind. Iphioma looked down at her calloused feet. Her hands trembled. I miss her too, she whispered. I buried her beneath my crown. Then her voice cracked. Is it too late? Am I too changed? Obesai studied her for a long moment. Then, gently, he unslung the drum from his shoulder and placed it in her lap. You were never the drum, Iphioma. You were always a song. She stared at the drum, stunned. Slowly, her fingers tapped its surface. A quiet beat. Then, too, her rhythm returned like breath to lungs. Obesai smiled, and without warning, Iphioma began to dance. Not for a crowd, not for praise, but for him, for her, for the girl she had forgotten. She spun barefoot in the dust, hair wild, arms open to the sky. Tears streaked her cheeks, but she smiled through them. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't pretty, but it was real. When she finally stopped, Obesai stood and bowed slightly. That, he said, was the Iphioma I fell in love with. She stepped toward him, barefoot and trembling. I don't expect you to forgive me, but if you ever remember how we used to laugh, how we used to dream, I would give anything to begin again. Obesai reached for her hands. Love is not made of flawless skin or royal robes. It is made of rhythm, trust, and time. They stood quietly, foreheads touching. Later that day, they walked hand in hand to the palace. Queen Amaka stood at the gates, eyes wide with disbelief. King Dikiobi frowned, unsure what to make of the pair. But Ifeoma bowed low before her parents. "Not as a princess," she said, "but as a woman who forgot her soul." And then she rose, holding Obesai's hand tightly. "This man saved me twice. First, from loneliness, then from myself. If you deny me him, then you deny the daughter you raised me to be." King Dikiobi stared at them, then exhaled slowly. Queen Amaka stepped forward, her voice quivering. "Then let your redemption be your dowry. Go, love honestly." Months later, under the shade of the same fig tree where she wept, Princess Ifeoma married Obesai in a small celebration with family, friends, and music. Not for power, but for love. The villagers gathered, this time not to mock or idolize, but to witness a love story rise from ashes. And as the couple danced, barefoot and free, the crowd clapped to the beat of Obesai's drum, not because she was royal, but because she had found her rhythm again.